As you all know, the Detroit Lions were facing the Washington Commanders today as they were able to get a big win, winning 44-22, moving to 6-3 now on the season, getting a much-needed win with the help and thanks to Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell took over play calling in this game from John Morton, and wow, was it worth it. It was 100% the right decision, and did it pay off to a great extent. I mean, it was unreal how good of a game he called today. Now, the lighting in the background, I'm still working on fixing that. It was way too bright in the past couple of videos, so still working on that. I think it's a little bit better this video, but we'll see. I'm going to watch it back after, obviously, make the video, but there's that anyway. But Dan Campbell took over play calling, and he called a great game tonight. Now, he did say in the press conference after the game that he made the decision after this game on Sunday, so the next day on Monday, and he informed, I'm assuming, John Morton the same day. And Dan Campbell still said he got input from John Morton in this game today from up in the booth and his offensive assistants. And they still helped to an extent, but Dan Campbell was the one calling plays today. And you could just tell the offense was getting a lot of more momentum in this game. It was a lot more consistent, and a lot more big plays were happening than under John Morton. Though we want to talk about players getting space downfield, open downfield, blocks up the offensive line. Just everything worked to perfection today. This was the best game, not from Dan Campbell or not from John Morton, but from the whole Lions tenure of coaching staff who's calling plays that I've seen in a very, very long time. By far the best this season is better than against Chicago. We were still inconsistent in some parts against Chicago. Yeah, we had a whole bunch of explosive plays and we put up more points against Chicago. But I feel like the play calling was way better in this game than it was against Chicago. That's no disrespect to John Morton. And, I mean, probably the best game that we played prior to this was all the way back last year when we faced Jacksonville, where we threw up 52 as well. Where, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen an offense that since I've watched the Lions be as good as it was that game. But this was probably the second best I've seen our offense under Dan Campbell. Very well coached and very well played. Now let's go over the stats like we always do. Lions really beat the Commanders. Put belt to 44-22. Now, our defense was not great this game. We'll go over that in a little bit. Jared Goff was surgical today. 25 for 33, 320, 3 touchdowns, no picks. He felt a lot more comfortable in the pocket today. Kyle Allen came in the game late, around with about 8 minutes left in the fourth quarter, threw a couple passes. One of them should have been caught by Jamison Williams, but he did drop the pass. Now, that's the only bad play that Jamison Williams had all game, as we'll go over his stat line in a minute. But Jared Goff, he also had a couple players drop some passes in there. St. Brown had another drop, and that seems a little bit this year that St. Brown's having a drop every game or every other game. And, I mean, he's allowed to do that. I mean, not allowed to do that, but it is what it is with St. Brown. He's so productive to your offense, and he adds so much to it. If he makes a mistake, he's going to make up for it, and he did in other ways this game. But he did drop a pass today. That's been just something that's happened this year. Hopefully he can correct that. But he also had a couple other drops in there. I want to say he had another drop in there. I can't remember what the other drop was, but he had another drop in there. And he didn't have a bad throw today. He really did not have a bad throw today whatsoever. I mean, Jared Goff was absolutely surgical today. Puts him over 20 passing touchdowns on the season. Still only 3 picks for him on the year. Jared Goff has been great this year. Jahmyr Gibbs had probably his best rushing game on the ground this year. 15 for 142, 9.5 yards per carry, 2 rushing touchdowns. Had a over 40-yard rushing touchdown in there. Dave Montgomery also got 15 carries this game. Again, that's exactly what you want with these 2 running backs. You want them to where they have about the same amount of carries, and they're both very productive on the ground. Montgomery, very productive. One of his most productive games of the season. He's been a little bit quiet and a little bit disappointing this year, but today he was not. Getting 15 for 71, 4.7 yards per carry, and he got like 3 or 4 of those carries with our third-string offensive line when they came in late in the game, as they gave him some carries, and he was still putting up some good numbers on the ground. And he had a really nice 9-yard rush at the end of the game to seal it. Dave Montgomery, I'm glad he's able to get back on track, because he's only had 1 or 2 games where he's been over 4 yards a carry this year. Obviously, he had that phenomenal game against Baltimore, one of his best career games, but this was also a very good game by him. Hopefully getting him on track to continue to put up these numbers for us this season, because he's not been consistent this year, so hopefully this makes him consistent after this good game by him. Khalif Raymond had a jet sweep in there, 1 for 10. Sione Vaki had 1 carry late in the game, 1 for 4, his first carry of the season. Kyle Allen took a knee. Jamison Williams, like I said, by far his best game of the season, 6 for 119 and a touchdown. If he would have caught that pass at the end from Kyle Allen, he would have been over 120 on the day, and I believe would have tied a career high, or came close at least. I think his career high is 7 receptions, so he would have tied a career high if he would have caught that pass for over 120 yards, and he had 1 touchdown on the day. Jamison Williams, he looked a lot more, what's the word? He looked like he had a lot more confidence in this game. He really, really did. He looked like he had a lot more confidence. And I mean, like, he was just open downfield. He was open on a comeback route. He was last week as well, but he was this week. I believe it was in the third quarter on that route from Jared Goff to start the second half off. And he just made a lot of big plays. Had a really nice middle of, what's it called? Well, I'm just going to call it a short slant, where he ran about 3 yards and just over the middle of the field was able to catch the ball and run for 40 yards downfield. I love when we do that with him, because he's just so fast and can get open so quick. Because he's so quick. I mean, he can get open so quick because he's so quick, literally. Jamison Williams, by far his best game of the season. Hopefully this gets him on track, because he was pretty good last week as well. So if this game can get him going, Jameis Williams could be deadly for the rest of the season. St. Brown, again, besides that 1 drop I mentioned earlier in the game, he had 5 for 58 and 1 touchdown. Very productive. That puts him with 8 receiving touchdowns on the year. I believe, I want to say that puts him still tied second in the league. Either that puts him tied second, or he is now second in the league in receiving touchdowns, only, I believe, behind Devontae Adams. Sam Laporta, 5 for 53, very productive. Commanders one of the worst against tight ends in football, and he had a very productive day. Made a couple really nice blocks in there. Raymond finally getting involved in the offense. Again, Dan Campbell working his magic here with Raymond, having 4 for 49 and having that jet sweep for 1 rush for 10 yards, like I said earlier. And Khalif Raymond's very involved today in the offense, and I absolutely love it. We didn't really have a wide receiver 3 involved in the offense up until this game. We really did not. If you really think about it, our third target on offense when it comes to receivers, I'm going to say it. I know it sounds crazy for players who can catch the ball. It was Brock Wright. It really, really was. When I'm talking about a wide receiver 3, because Brock Wright was in there like he was a wide receiver 3. I mean, he's taken so many snaps this year. You would think he's our wide receiver 3 prior to this game. I mean, you really would. I mean, he was putting up, if you considered him as a wide receiver, he would be the 3rd wide receiver on our team in receiving yards prior to this game with 71. Khalif Raymond, I think, only had, I want to say, about 60 or something like that heading into this game. He'd been really quiet this year. So Khalif Raymond finally getting involved like he needs to be, because he's productive in this offense. If you can get him involved, man. He was able to get involved today in a big way. Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 for 30 and a receiving touchdown. Love to see it. Isaac Tesla had a nice catch in there. Believe it or not, this was his first catch of his career, let alone of the season, that has not resulted in a touchdown. Isn't that crazy? And this is on his 4th catch, so just put that into perspective. First catch that has not resulted in a touchdown in his NFL career on his 4th catch. So that's pretty insane. Montgomery had a reception in there for 0 yards on the screen. We did not do very many screens this game either, which I absolutely love with Dan Campbell taking over. That was one of the very few we had. Brock Wright, I mentioned him earlier, did not have a catch in this game. Dwelly had a target but could not hold on. It was going to be a tough catch that was thrown by Kyle Allen. Brian Branch was our sack leader with 1.5. Brian Branch had a heck of a day in this game, getting 1.5 sacks, very stiff in coverage, making multiple big hits in this game. Got to rewatch the film from how he was in coverage, but from off eyeball, he had a great game, one of his better games of the year. Thomas Harper started again at safety for the injured Kirby Joseph and played pretty well again off the eye. Thought he played pretty well. I'm telling you, man, he's a good depth safety. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's exclusive rights free agent next year. We better tender him, because, I mean, this guy could be an answer at long-term depth at safety, but also potentially a starter down the road. I mean, he really could be. Thomas Harper's been very good stepping in this year. Matter of fact, he has taken the safety 3 role from Avonte Maddox. Avonte Maddox was in there a little bit more in this game. Terran Arnold got hurt as well with concussion. He was ruled out. So we'll see how. Hopefully, Terran Arnold should be okay. It shouldn't be nothing major. Worse, he's going to miss next week, but I highly even doubt he misses next week. But Avonte Maddox did play a little bit more today because of that. But even prior to this game last week, Thomas Harper took essentially 95% of the snaps from him. And Thomas Harper took all the snaps from him essentially again today. Avonte Maddox only came in the game really when Terran Arnold came out. So, I mean, he has taken the safety 3 job from Avonte Maddox. Avonte Maddox has been demoted to safety 4 now at this point. Safety 4 / third string slot or whatever. I mean, that's how good Thomas Harper has been this year as a depth safety. Real talk. Avonte Maddox, when he was in there, like I said, played decently well. Had a huge hit in there. Alex Anzalone continued to be a solid linebacker this year. Jack Campbell had a very nice stop on a 2-point conversion that the Commanders attempted. He was able to stuff him and made a couple really nice tackles in this game. Jack Campbell's an absolute dog. This man needs to be extended after this year. We have so many tough decisions to make. And, I mean, Jack Campbell he's going to have to be one of the players that you must extend, 100%. Roy Lopez getting his first technical sack of the season, getting a half a sack, the other half going to Brian Branch. Only had 2 total sacks on the day. None from the defensive line besides the half a sack from Roy Lopez. Now, Roy Lopez did have a great game today. He has been the most average defensive tackle I've ever seen this year so far throughout every single game he's played, but this is the first game where he's shown a lot of promise, getting multiple pressures in there, making a big impact in the run game, had a really nice tackle, 2 tackles for loss in there, and getting that half a sack as well. So Roy Lopez, good to see him finally having an above average game because he's been average to start this year, but this was a much needed good performance by him. Terran Arnold, before he got hurt, I believe he played the first half and then he got hurt in the third quarter, had a really nice pass breakup on a pass, I want to say it was to Jalen Lane or Debo that he was able to break up. Terran Arnold continuing to be more productive in pass coverage this year than he was to start the year. Amik Robertson, in the past couple weeks than he was to start the year. Amik Robertson, I haven't watched the film, but I don't think it was the best day by Meek Robertson. But again, I have not watched the film. Didn't make any huge plays today, so that's really going to come down to film. Tyler Lacey was actually the starting edge today, according to Fox, and that surprised me over Al-Qadim Muhammad. But Tyler Lacey's been a very good pickup for us, being productive in the run game as well, but as well in the pass game. Decent day for him. Rocky Sin had a really nice pass breakup on Robbie Anderson. I'm not calling him Robbie Chosen Anderson. I'm not doing that. Robbie Anderson, he had a really nice pass break on him, where Robbie Anderson initially caught the ball and then he just punched it out. I mean, it was a great play by Rocky Sin, man. Rocky Sin has been a great depth corner for us this year, along with Thomas Harper as a depth safety. I mean, we've got some really good depth players in the secondary this year that we've not had it any year under Dan Campbell. Real talk. He's been really solid, rock solid for us this year. DJ Reader was good in the run game, not much in the pass rush game. Continued to be underwhelming this year. Liam McNeil, not the best of games for him, but he was still able to get some couple pressures in there. Was decent in the run game. Arthur Millette had another really nice pass breakup in there on, I believe it was 3rd and 4, I want to say, somewhere around there. In their territory, in the Commanders' territory, that ended up resulting in a punt. So Arthur Millette continues to also be a good depth addition for us. Trevor Nowaski made a couple nice special teams tackles. Jake Bates saved another special teams touchdown, making a huge tackle. He is one of the most fearless special teams kickers, punters, long snappers I've ever seen in my life. I mean, real talk. He doesn't get scared. I mean, you remember Sam Martin, dude? Anytime Sam Martin was in a position where he had to attempt to make a tackle, he would either just move out the way on purpose and act like he was making the tackle, or he would just, lean into him like this. He won't even put his hands out there or go for the legs or anything like that. I mean, Jake Bates is the complete opposite of that. I mean, he's fearless when it comes to that, 100%. Tyrus Wheat was in there on special teams. Derek Barnes, quiet day from him. Also a quiet day from Aiden Hutchinson, but this is why we need an edge rusher opposite him, because when Aiden Hutchinson does, very few, but when he does have a quiet game. We need somebody else on the edge who can be productive, and that's just we do not have that right now. Muhammad was quiet. He didn't pop up on stat sheet. Didn't even get a tackle today. He was not productive. Again, got to rewatch the film, but I don't think he got maybe more than one pressure on the day. It's just Muhammad is fine. Good depth edge rusher. Been very good this year, career year. But he's not the answer opposite Aiden Hutchinson. He's just not, because when Aiden Hutchinson cannot get anything rolling, you need somebody else on the other side who can, and we just don't have that currently right now. That's all I'm going to say. Grant Stewart made some really nice special teams tackles in there. Sione Vaki, 2 for 39 on kick returns. Clay Freeman, 1 for 21. Jacob Saylors was ruled out this game with I don't know what the injury was. I want to say maybe it was a shoulder injury. I don't know. But Saylors did not play this game, so Vaki ended up being the kick returner in his replacement and did not play great, but did not play horrible. Raymond was quiet on punt returns, 3 for 3. Dominic Lovett had one late in the game that he did not return, that he'd call for a fair catch. Jake Bates went 100% extra point, on field goals, missed an extra point as it was blocked. Marcus Mariota. Hey, I'm going to talk about the Commanders here. If I'm the Commanders, I'm not worrying about this loss. I think this is something to build off of if I'm the Washington Commanders. Real talk, your defense was atrocious today. It was horrible. But also, Dan Campbell called a heck of a game. He called a heck of a game, and everybody on the offense really performed. There wasn't really one bad player on the offense. Speaking of the offensive line, we did not allow a sack. We did not allow a tackle for a loss, and we only allowed 5 quarterback hits. The offensive line played out of its mind today. Christian Mahogany ended up suffering a broken leg last week. He's going to be out until late in the season, probably around week 17, week 18 is when I'm expecting him to be back. Coyote Owosika filled in for him at guard today and held his own. Coyote Owosika, very average backup guard, but he held his own today. I mean, that's what he does when he comes in there. He held his own. Doesn't make any huge splashes, huge blocks in there, but he's going to hold his own. He's a solid backup guard, man. That's what he did today. But rest of the offensive line today, they played very well. Tristan Colon came in there for a little bit as Glasgow went down. Glasgow has a back injury. He said he should be good, though, and it should not be anything serious. But Colon came in there, played a couple snaps. Didn't love what I saw from him, but again, got to rewatch the film. But everybody on the offensive line played pretty solid today, I thought. Real talk, but Marcus Mariota and the Commanders, this is nothing to worry about. It really is. This is just something to build off of. Your defense was not good at all today, but your offense really was very decent. We did not have a great day on defense, the Lions. Marcus Mariota, 16 for 22. That's got to be above 70%. 213 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, yeah, they need a running back, man. I know Bill has been decent this year for the Commanders, but he's just not explosive enough. He doesn't break enough tackles. He's been inconsistent this year on the rushing game when it comes to yards per carry. I mean, like, this is what he's at every single week. He's either at 2.5 yards a carry or he's at 5 yards a carry. I mean, he's just too inconsistent, and I feel like he's more under 4 yards a carry than he is above. So I think Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt could develop into a starting running back, but at this current moment, he's just not a starting running back in the National Football League. Good backup, but just not a starting running back in the league right now. Not a great day from him today. 11 for 30. Jeremy McNichols, now he is a good, really good number 3 back. 5 for 25, 5 yards a carry. He's been very productive this year as a depth running back, and he was last year as well, where he got around 300, 400 rushing yards. Marcus Mariota on the ground was decently effective, 5 for 22. Chris Rodriguez, their other running backs, had 6 for 16 and a rushing touchdown. Not productive besides the touchdown. Traylon Burks, who the Commanders claimed a couple weeks ago, picked up from free agency, had 3 receptions for 58 yards, being their leading receiver. Zach Ertz had a really nice catch in there, the Lions legend, having 4 for 54 in the day. Jalen Lane, the rookie, had 1 for 41. Debo, 4 for 29 and a touchdown. Also had a really nice one-handed catch in there late in the game. Robbie Anderson had 1 for 17. John Bates, 1 for 6. McNichols, 1 for 4. Ben Sinnott, the third-year tight end, 1 for 4 and a touchdown. And their defense, again, it was not good at all today. Speaking of defense, Javon Kinlaw, what are you doing, man? I believe he had, I know he had an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in there, yelling at St. Brown. It's just Javon Kinlaw was all over the place today. And he was talking trash to Jared Goff, which didn't make any sense because he was down by 2 touchdowns, I believe, at the time. It just, what are you doing? You're a solid defensive tackle, but your team is losing. You didn't have a great game today. Why are you taunting? Why are you doing all this? And defensive tackle Deron Payne for the Commanders, their best defensive lineman currently, also got ejected this game for throwing a nasty, dirty punch at St. Brown for no reason whatsoever. Now, I don't want to say no reason whatsoever because I didn't really. Javon Kinlaw, after the game, said St. Brown ended up throwing a punch first. I did not see that in replay at all, so I'm going to dig deeper into that, see if he actually did. But I'm assuming he did not because St. Brown is very mature and he wouldn't do anything like that typically. So I don't really believe that from Javon Kinlaw, but I'll take a look at it, so I don't want to 100% confirm it. But Deron Payne just slapped him in the face, punched him in the face, ended up getting him ejected. And then Javon Kinlaw actually hit or slapped a ref late in the game. I don't know how he got ejected either. But he did that as well. I mean, I don't know what the Commanders were doing at all today. I mean, they were just not a good defensive performance. Just nothing to go over here. I mean, nobody had a good game. Real talk, nobody had a good game. Trey Amos. I can never pronounce his name right. I want to say it's Trey Amos, the rookie. I want to say from Mizzou. I remember him coming out of the draft. Wasn't very high on him this year, so that's why I can never remember how to pronounce his name. But he got hurt in the game. I don't know how significant his injury is. But besides that, man, there's nobody to highlight here. Von Miller, Preston Smith, their two top edge rushers, were shut down. Matt Gay 100% field goals. Matt Gay was decent on punts today. Going over the team stats, and we'll go over the roster moves and wrap this video up. Total yards, 546 for the Lions. This is a season high. 288 for the Commanders. 320 passing yards for the Lions. 195 for the Commanders. I think that's second highest for the Lions this year. 226 rushing yards. 93 for the Commanders. I think that's also second highest for us this year. Maybe that is highest, but I want to say we had more in the Ravens game. Yards per play, 8 for the Lions. That's absolutely ridiculous. 5.6 for the Commanders. 30 first downs for the Lions, 14 for the Commanders. We had over half the amounts. It's insane. Third down efficiency, still got to work on this a little bit. We only went 50%, going 5 for 10, but still not bad by any means, especially when you look at the Commanders only going 2 for 10. Fourth down efficiency, 2 for 2. 3 for 3 for the Commanders. Total plays, 68 for the Lions compared to the 51 for the Commanders. Sacks allowed, 0 for the Lions, 2 for the Commanders. But those are both by defensive backs, so I'm not really going to consider those. Punts, 0 for the Lions, 4 for the Commanders. Jack Fox had an off day. Penalties, 3 for 1 yard for the Lions. That is great to see, as I'm pretty sure we were bottom 5 in the NFL when it comes to allowed penalties and penalty yardage. We've been not lucky, and we have not played well when it comes to getting penalties this year. I mean, we've gotten a crap ton of penalties this year, able to only get 3 this game for a total of 1 yard. So that's great to see. Commanders, 8 for 61. Interception, 0 and 0. Time possession, 32 minutes and 36 seconds for the Lions. 27 minutes and 24 seconds for the Washington Commanders. And going over their other players, like I said, I already went over them a little bit. But Marcus Mariota, very decent backup. Still going to take away my take that I said in 2022. I don't think I was making content at the time when I always thought this, but I wanted Marcus Mariota to become our franchise quarterback when he was a free agent in 2021. I really wanted us to sign him in 2022. We didn't. I was upset about it because I thought he could be the answer long term. Does that act like I never thought that? But Marcus Mariota, he's still a very good backup in this league, man. He can come in and start if needed. He showed that today. He's a very good backup quarterback in this league. Very decent quarterback, can come in and fill in whatever. That's what Marcus Mariota is, and it's always been. Real talk, I don't know why I ever thought he could be a franchise quarterback, but he's always been a decent quarterback in the NFL. Reliable quarterback. Now, going over the Lions rosters from this past week, because we did have a lot of them, so this video, I'm sorry, is probably going to be over 30 minutes. I'm going to run through this as fast as I can. But, so if you don't want to see any of the roster moves here, skip to about 30 minutes in the video. I should be done by then, 32 minutes, somewhere on there, where I'll end up finishing the review. Lions announced roster moves. This was early in the week, right after the trade deadline. I know, by the way, we did nothing. Still not happy about it, but it is what it is. We released tight end Kenny Yeboah with an injury settlement. We placed him on IR during training camp, so he's going to miss the remainder of the regular season anyway. And I think once the trade deadline ends, you have to make a decision on players that are on injured reserve. When it comes to players that were placed on injured reserve before the season started, which would put them out for the year, I think you have to make a decision on them if you want to keep them for the rest of the year on IR, or if you want to flat out release them to potentially bring them back later in the year if they can recover from their injury. And we did that with Kenny Yeboah. We released him with an injury settlement, potentially chance he returns later in the year as like a practice squad tight end. I doubt it, but he is no longer on the Detroit Lions. And we also released guard/tackle Justin Haran. Also, I'm assuming with an injury settlement, they just didn't say it because he was also placed on season-ending IR in training camp. Feel bad for the guys. Owie got hurt, former 6th-round pick by Dallas. Showed some potential with Dallas. His career in the NFL could be over because the guy can literally not stay healthy. I'm pretty sure he's gotten hurt every single year of his NFL career. It's unfortunate for both of those guys, but especially Justin Haran. Nothing too big there. We don't gain a roster spot for either of those. We also signed, right after this, we announced that we have signed UDFA guard from Boston College this year, Jack Conley. Guard/tackle Chris Hubbard, who's 34 years old, by the way. And we have re-signed guard Natane Mutai to the practice squad. All of these guys have been signed to the practice squad. 3 offensive linemen. This was with Mahogany going on injured reserve, putting him out for most of the regular season. We need some depth there. Chris Hubbard, we still need some better tackle depth. He can play tackle and guard. Jack Conley, big guard. Just had guard depth there. And Natane Mutai, familiar with the organization, was here all of training camp this year and was here all last year as he was on injured reserve. But Natane Mutai has been around the organization, played decently well in the preseason. I'm surprised he actually didn't make the initial practice squad. But this time he's on the practice squad. I like all these moves, especially Chris Hubbard and Natane Mutai, because they're veterans. They've been around. Natane Mutai has with the Lions. Chris Hubbard's been in the league forever. This is some other ones we announced. Like I said, we placed guard Christian Mahogany in injured reserve, out for a minimum of 4 games, but he'll be out probably until week 17, week 18 at the minimum. We signed Ty Summers to the 53-man roster from the practice squad. Probably won't last long, though, as we should be getting Miles Frazier and Malcolm Rodriguez back this week, especially Malcolm Rodriguez. And then these are the final roster moves we announced. We'll go over the stats, which there's much to go over. We announced roster moves as we have waived safety Jamie Robinson, who we claimed from the Kansas City Chiefs practice squad a couple of weeks ago. He has cleared waivers now, so I'm assuming after this game, Monday or Tuesday, we can make a decision if we want to bring him back on the practice squad or not. I actually didn't know we could waive him, though, until this point. Maybe it's... I thought you had to, if you claimed the player off of other team's practice squad, I thought you had to be on that team who claimed you's 53-man roster for a minimum of 3 games, and I don't think he was on the team for 3 games. We poached him after the Chiefs game, so that means he played the Minnesota game, and the Minnesota game, and he didn't play this game. So I don't know why. I have no clue why. Maybe I'm just reading the rule wrong, but I don't know. I don't think we could do that. But nonetheless, Jamie Robinson no longer short line. That did not work out. Clearly, we have activated safety Daniel Thomas from injured reserve. He played in this game on special teams, made some nice special teams plays. It's nice to see. He's a special team ace. And we elevated center/guard Michael Neese from the practice squad for this game. Came in the fourth quarter with a 13 offensive line. Actually held his own, surprisingly. Because, I'm not a big fan of Michael Neese because he's not shown much over the past couple years, in my opinion. But let's go over these stats for the guards and O-linemen that we signed, and there's nothing really to go over. To be honest, we'll just go over their height and size and experience. Jack Conley, UDFA, like I said, from this year. He's a huge guard, though, 6'7", 333. Now, I made a comment on Twitter that he was 230 pounds because that's what ESPN had him listed as before they updated it after we signed him. I mean, I'm being 100% real with you. When we signed him, they had him listed at 230 pounds. I think it was 236 to be exact. He would have been the lightest offensive lineman in NFL history. So they did update it that he is a huge guard, though, much over 100 pounds that he's gained since they updated it. But that he is a huge guard, man. You would expect that size to be a tackle. 6'7", 333, that's huge. That's bigger than Decker and Sewell. Birth date, he's 24 years old, turned 24 during the summer. Again, from Boston College. So there is Jack Conley, was with the Patriots. He got picked up by the Patriots in a UDFA free agency this year, did not make the team, and he joins our practice squad. Now, Chris Hubbard, veteran tackle in the NFL. Now, ESPN has him listed as a guard, so I guess he is expected, if he ever has to, play guard for the Lions. That's or offensive line for the Lions. He's going to play guard. He's going to wear 74, so he's actually very undersized, 6'4", 285. Now, I think the NFL website has him listed as 295, so that's a little bit bigger. But if he is only 285, that's very undersized. That is one of the That is one of the lightest offensive linemen I've ever seen in my life. I mean, real talk. 285, especially in recent memory. I mean, 285, you can barely even play center. You can't even really play center at 285. I mean, so 285, I don't think that's right. I think he is 295, 296, whatever NFL website had him listed as. But if that is the case, that's a very light offensive line. But he's got lots of experience. He's 34 years old. This is his 11th year. Spent time with the Steelers, and he's been all over the place. He really has. Is a starting tackle, backup tackle. I like this addition. He can play both guard and tackle. Veteran experience. He's had experience as a starter and backup. I like this pickup. And moving on to the final one, Netane Mutai, from our former 6th-round pick in 2020 by Denver. Didn't really work out. Not really played a whole lot in his NFL career besides preseason, but he has played well in the preseason. 6'3", 325, also a very big guard, 26 years old. He turned 27 at the end of the year and the offseason from Fresno State. Also really love this pickup. Already went over him. Experience with the Lions, played well in preseason. I like all of these offensive line pickups, especially Chris Hubbard and Netane Mutai. So there's your Detroit Lions roster moves at 31 men. So I told you 30 or 32 men, so right in the middle there. But the Lions beat the Commanders 44-22. Those were the roster moves from this past week. This is a huge win for the Lions. They will take on the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football next week, and really almost a must-win game because that could really determine if we could get the 1 seed or not, as currently the Seattle Seahawks have the 1 seed, but the Philadelphia Eagles have the 2 seed. So next week is really a must-win game for the Detroit Lions. So big game next week. This gets us a lot of momentum. Feel bad for the Commanders. They can only really afford to lose one more game, if that, to even have a chance to make the playoffs. But I do think this gives them some momentum and some fight to keep playing. Marcus Mariota had a good game today. Their offense can still play, man. If they could if Bill Krusky-Merritt could get something going, their offense can be very decent. That defense has just got to improve. So the Commanders is something to build off of. For the Detroit Lions, this is a huge win. Face the Eagles next week in a must-win game, in my opinion. But I absolutely love this. Dan Campbell hopefully continues to call plays. John Morton, we'll see if his time as the Detroit Lion is over. And then in the upcoming weeks, probably, depending on how Dan Campbell calls plays within the next couple weeks. But anyway, one Pride Go Lions. Huge win. Move on to Philadelphia next week. 6-3. Dan Campbell, I love that you call plays. Please call them for the rest of the year. Please, and please continue to call them at this level that you're playing at right now, calling out right now.